Okay, back out in the shop. We got the Jeep moved out today and brought the 65 Chevelle in. We got to get some work done on this car. It's been a while since we've done anything to it. Plan for this segment of work on the car is we're going to get the windshield out. We need to take out the trim, take the rest of the trim off. This cowl piece needs to come out. And then we're going to take the windshield out. But before I take the windshield out, I think what we're going to do is go ahead and take out dash pad and most of the instrument cluster. It's going to make it easier to access the bottom of the windshield to cut that seal off. And two, this dash needs some work. It's got some rust in it right here, and it wasn't repaired when it was fixed last time. I just don't understand the way they did some of the things on this car, but I don't know. So we're going to pull the dash pad out, and he wants the car rewired, so I need access behind the dash anyhow. So I might as well just go ahead and take all that apart now. Just make sure I leave the car where it's able to run, so I'm going to have to pull it in and out of the shop. But that's the plan for this part of the job. Let's get the windshield out and get that lower section down here where this goofy pad is, patches put in, and put in that whole lower section of the windshield. So that'll fix all this and repair the front part of the dash. Alright, I got most of the dash apart. Now I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I found so far. I come across this so often doing cars. People do cars and they do, they're wanting to do a nice car, but then they cut corners and they don't do certain things. And I don't understand that. Now, somebody went through the trouble doing this dash, and they put a whole new dash trim piece on. If you look at the back, all the gauges are new. They've been replaced. Nice. But then they cut a hole in the dash to put a modern stereo in it. Now, okay, you might want modern tunes driving down the road in this car. There's other ways to go around it now, besides cutting the dash open. They make so many aftermarket radios that have all the features of all these new radios. It boggles my mind why anybody does that anymore. They don't want to spend the extra money to do it so it looks original. That's the biggest thing. Okay, so moving inside. They painted the dash, but again, they didn't fix this. Why would you not fix that? Oh, the dash pad will cover it. Maybe you should have fit the dash pad to it before you painted it and made sure. Guess what? When you put it on, it didn't cover it. Nothing was done with the steering column. It's got original paint on it. It looks like, I won't say what it looks like. And also, I found, as I had to take this column down to get the instrument cluster out, there was no bolts holding it in at the bottom to the firewall. You can see that, it's just moving all over the place there. There's supposed to be 3 or 4 bolts to hold the plate to the firewall. Not a one of them in it. I don't know. I don't get it. If you're there, do it. So anyhow, here's what we're looking at on the back side. As you can see, somebody tried to seal it. I don't know if it works or not. I guess it does. There's no water in the car. This car's been sitting outside. But what a hideous repair that was. So we're going to do it right. We're going to put the patch piece in. We're going to fix everything up nice. We're going to put the insulation back under the cowl like it's supposed to be. We're going to take all this original wiring out. He wants a new, more modern style wiring in the car. So that'll all be gone. So it'll have good wiring in it now. And we're probably going to end up painting the dash and the steering column so that everything matches nice. I don't get it. I just don't get it. This is a real SS 396 4-speed Chevelle. 65. So this car is worth some money if it's done right. If it's not done right, it ain't worth more than a Malibu. Alright, got the dash pad off. There's a little bit more rot in this dash than what you could see. And we got holes on this side. And of course you got that over there. And you push, you see the dash even moves. So we're going to fix all that. Make the dash good and solid again. And we'll have to repaint the whole dash. But I've done work for this guy before. And I know he doesn't like to kind of do things not right. So I'm sure with cars apart as far as it is, he's going to want me to fix that and make the dash look good again. And on closer inspection too, either that's got the car has the wrong steering column in it, or it was originally an automatic car that someone has converted, because, or it could have been it very well could have been a 3 on the tree car. But it does have a place in the steering column for a shifter stalk. So it was either an automatic or it was a 3 on the tree. But either way, it's got a 4-speed in it now, which makes it more fun. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get the windshield out so I get access to that lower edge so I can put that piece in. And I've got an air tool that I use for cutting windshields out. It works really nice. I bought this tool probably 30 years ago, and it works very well. You just kind of get it worked in there, and it vibrates back and forth like this, and goes right along, and will cut out the ribbon seal. It works good for cutting urethane glass out too, although this blade's seen better days. I really like this for getting glass out. You have to be careful with it, because if you do happen to nick the edge of the glass, it can crack it. But hopefully we won't break this windshield, since it does look like it's fairly new, and I don't want to have to buy a windshield for the car. Well, it was a good night. I got the windshield out and didn't crack it. No glass. So now we can get on with doing our repair. I've got the repair panel for this is in the trunk. So tomorrow I'll work on this some more and get that piece out and see just what I need to cut out to put that in and get rid of that ugly repair. And then we'll work on fabricating some pieces for the dash here and here to take care of this. God, I cannot imagine what was in this that made this car rust the dash out like that. It had to have been, windshield had to have been leaking, and the moisture just sat in the dash pad and it just rotted the dash out. That's the only thing I can think of why a dash would rust out here. I can't see any other way water would sit right on this edge and rot a dash out like that. So that's all for tonight. I've had enough today. We'll continue on with this project tomorrow. Well, last night, after I kind of finished up on this car, I got looking around at it some more, just giving it the eyeball on what was done with this thing. And one thing that I noticed, and I'm going to zoom in on it here. You see that? Okay, now let's look inside the wheel. Ooh, we have discs in there. So somebody updated the car to disc brakes, which is great. That's a great upgrade for these old cars. It makes them stop better. But they didn't do the job right. That master cylinder is the original single reservoir drum brake master cylinder. It is not designed to be used with disc brakes in any way at all. First of all, the reservoir is not big enough for the volume of fluid that the calipers use in a disc brake system. And second of all, it's not safe in today's cars. Because a single reservoir master cylinder, if you get a line that's rusted or a hose that breaks and you pop a brake line, you're losing your brakes to all your brakes, which means you've got nothing except your emergency brake. A dual reservoir system, which what this should have on it now, splits the system between the front and rear brakes. So if you happen to have a loss of fluid from the fronts or the rears, you're still going to have brakes. Granted, they're not going to work as good as they should, but you're still going to be able to stop the car because your one reservoir will work whichever system it didn't lose the fluid. Again, the more I look at this car and the more things I find about who put this car together, I don't like to say things about the way other people build cars, but I don't know if they didn't know what they were doing or if they were just trying to cut major corners on this car, but there were so many things that were not done properly on this car, it's not even funny. Another thing that I'm looking at on this is the piece that we have to put in for the lower windshield. It's going to go in here, and as you can see, it goes underneath this A-pillar piece. Now on these Chevelles, the 64s up through, at least I know on the 67s, this piece actually detaches from the body. This is not a structural piece on the body. You look in here, right up here, there's a screw. There's another screw along here. There should be another screw along here somewhere. But underneath the fender, there's two screws here and here. So this piece and the piece on the other side really need to come off in order to install this whole repair piece properly. So I need to talk with the customer, see what he wants to do, because I'm going to have to figure out if I can take and possibly get the fenders to move forward enough for me to get access to these screws to pull this piece out. Okay, I did a little bit of experimenting and I took out top bolt here. There's a bolt down there on the firewall and a bolt inside of the door jamb here. And with those three bolts out, I'm actually able to pry the fender forward enough to access those screws. So that's a good thing. I'll be able to get those screws and then take this piece off in order to get that patch panel installed properly, the whole piece in, and not have to cut it apart. Okay, like I said, I was able to pry the fenders far enough forward, and I put in these nylon sticks here that I use for taking trim off and weather stripping and stuff to keep my gap open. And I got one screw out. The other screw is going to be questionable. The head's pretty gone on it, so I may have to cut it. I might be able to get it with a chisel. But also have found here where when they did the car, they filled this whole corner here with Bondo, which it's not supposed to be, because this piece actually allows for any water that comes down here to be able to go underneath of here, down the cowl, and then drain down the body. But instead, with this filled up, the water sits in here, and then it either has to run down this way, which there are no holes for it to come out, or it runs over top of here. So just totally not done the right way. There's a reason the factory does things a certain way. Some things, you know, today, yes, we modify them. We've learned better, but the way the bodies were designed for water to move through them and out of them, they had it pretty well figured out. So those are things that we really should not take liberties on unless you're building a car that's never going to see rain. So if that's the case, then do what you want. But if your car is going to be driven in water and washed and whatnot, you need to make sure that all the access areas for the water to move out of are still there. Okay, if you're not familiar with these A-pillar pieces on these Chevelles, the two screws that I showed you underneath the fender have to come out. There was two on the inside of the windshield frame, and there's three very small screws. If you can see that right there, that size, they're a countersunk screw that are underneath the weather strip channel here. So you have to remove the weather stripping out of the channel, take the 4 screws out of the weather strip channel, and that gives you access to the other 3 screws that will hold that piece on. Okay, so I've got both of the A-pillar trim pieces removed from both sides now, and I cut out that hack repair piece that was in here just so I could get my new piece to lay in where I need it at. And I want to make sure I mark it now before I do any cutting so I can just get it lined up right. Since this side is still intact where it needs to be, I can line up the edge on this side, and I'm just going to put a little mark on the dash so I know that that's where it goes. And one over here, so that after I cut the old one out, I'll still know that approximately where this goes in at, and it should be really close, if not exactly where it needs to be. Once I get the front lip cut off of here, I'm going to take out all the window clips, and I'll lay this back down in here, and then I'll mark on the dash where I want where this will sit at. I'm still deciding how I want to put this in. I may just lay this piece over top of the dash and just spot weld it all along there, and then just fill the little area with some Bondo, because this is down at the lower edge of the windshield and where the dash pad sits at, so you're really not going to see that much of a difference there, and it'll give me good material for this new piece to attach to. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, is just cut it right along the lower edge of this, where it folds over here, or maybe even down into here, into the lower portion, so that the glass will sit on this nice new piece that we have here. The first thing I got to do is take out all these clips, and then I can start cutting out this piece. So for that, you're going to go back on time lapse. Okay, as you can see, I've got the old piece cut out, which you missed because the camera didn't turn on when I pushed the button for it to turn on. But you've seen it in other videos I've done cutting panels out. I cut the old one right at the bottom where in the channel, so that I've still got the front lip of the dash left to weld the new one to. I didn't want to try and butt weld this dash. It'd be flopping all up and down, and this is another one of those areas where it's easy to hide things, so they don't have to be 100% hidden in order to put your panel in. Like I've said before in other videos, there's places to spend time doing that, and there's places to just get the panel put in, get your structural rigidity back, and do minimum amount of cover up, and there are other pieces that will hide it. Once these cars are together, nobody's going to go in there and scrutinize whether or not you made this seam or this patch panel completely disappear when you put it in, because nobody cares at that point. All they care about is, man, the car looks great, looks really good. So I've already ground down the paint and whatnot, Bondo over here off the dash edge. So I got to go along and clean up this lip along here, get a few of my remaining spot welds off, clean up this rust that's on here, and then I'm going to give it a coat of the weld through primer, and then I'll get my new piece. We'll sit down in here, just like so. I've got my mark over here to line it up on this edge. So as you can see, once this is in here, I may have to make a small patch right here. But once this is in and it's welded to the dash, you know, you're not going to, and the dash pad's in because the dash pad will come right up to this edge. You're just not going to see this. So there's no sense in spending all this time doing a nice clean butt weld, grinding it down, making it disappear, like it's never been done. It doesn't matter. Just put the piece in and get the car structurally sound again. Okay, I got everything cleaned up here. All my rust cleaned up, and I marked off on my piece. There's some, let me look from this side, there's some indentations in here. So I wanted to make sure I didn't drill a hole for a spot weld where one of those were. So I marked along where they all were, and then I put some dots where I want to punch some holes and drill some holes to do all my spot welds along here. But looking at this car closer, as with every car when you're fixing rust, once you open something up, you always find something else. And I found a small hole here in the top of the cowl. So I need to fix this hole here before I put this in, because once I set this down in here, that's about where it goes. You can see it makes it a little harder to access that area. So I'll go ahead and fix that, make a small patch for that, cut that out, put a piece in there, and then I can prime all this and get my holes punched in here and have that ready to go in. Probably get it put in tomorrow. Day's running out today. So that's where we're going to leave it at today. I got my patch panel piece ready. All my holes punched in it all the way along. I've got the back side of it primered with some weld through primer, and this area where it sets in, prepped with weld through primer. One thing I notice with this on both sides, once it's set in here where it's supposed to be, there is a gap here and here that where if I don't put a patch in here, the windshield will not seal right. So we need to make patches for this side and the other side so the windshield seal will lay flat on there and the glass will seal properly. Okay, got all the welding done on the patch panel at the lower dash windshield bed area. So this is ready for some final body work, just to blend this edge right here into the dash, which you really aren't going to see too much of because the dash pad comes right up to the edge of that. So we're just going to do a little bit of body work on there to finish that off. But that's going to end this video. The next video I'm going to do on this is going to be fixing the other sections of this dash where the rust is. We're going to go ahead and get those fixed and then get the dash prepped, do the final body work on our patch panel, and get everything ready for paint. And I'll walk through the paint process on it also. So we're going to end up probably painting the dash and the steering column, since it was not painted before and it really doesn't match too well with the rest of the paint that's in the car. As you can see, it's pretty old and dull, and it's the original paint that was on that steering column from new. So we'll go ahead and paint that too and make everything match up really good. But that's going to end this video on this part of the dash repair. So again, if you can, please, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. I'm having a good time making these videos. I hope they've been informative to everyone that's been watching. I appreciate everybody's support and the watches you've been giving me. Again, if you can too, please, even if the videos get a little lengthy, just let them play through. I need to build up my watch time hours on YouTube's algorithm, so that I can start being able to do a little bit more on YouTube and be recommended to more people that do searches for different things. But I appreciate everybody's support. Again, subscribe, hit the like button, leave me some comments if there's something you'd like to know a little bit more detail about on how I did these repairs, or some repairs that may be coming up. And I'll see you when we finish up the rest of the dash. Thanks again.